1 year ago today is the day that Andrew Luck decided to retire from the game of football. He was on his way to be a starter for the Indianapolis Colts. And for the second time in 3 years, Colts fans found out that they didn't have a once-in-a-generation quarterback starting for them that season. They were going to have somebody else. A couple years before that, Jacoby Brissett was literally brought in like 8 days before the season was starting and told he was a starter because Andrew Luck was hurt. Then now a year ago, he retires, and Jacoby Brissett's now the starter with 2 weeks to go before the season starts. There's a lot of questions on why Andrew Luck retired. There's a lot of questions on how it came to be that in the middle or fourth quarter of a preseason game, Adam Schefter tweet sends a couple drunk Colts fans into an angry mob, like boo, yell, which, by the way, the Colts fans got attacked for. I don't think that was fair. I mean, if you're at the fourth quarter of a preseason game and you're still there, you are probably the most diehard Colts fan in the history of Colts. And yeah, they should have immediately thought about how much Andrew Luck was a warrior for the Colts and how much pain and injuries he battled through and how he was retiring for himself. I agree. Hindsight's always 50-50. Cam Newton told us that. Mm-hmm. But if you think about in that moment, these Colts fans reading an Adam Schefter tweet that says their once-in-a-generation quarterback was once again not going to be their starter. And, oh, by the way, he's never playing football again. You could see how some drunk Colts fans would be like, oh, boo that man.
That stinks.
And then, by the way, that sound bite obviously gets sent everywhere because that's the last time Andrew's walking off that field. He's getting booed. It's like, oh, that's a terrible situation. But the fact that it got out before Andrew could leak it or say it himself, I would say is the biggest problem of them all. So everybody was trying to point at the Colts fans, which you can understand where their anger is coming from. I don't think they should have booed him. Now, I got a chance to see, obviously, plane rides home with him wrapped up and iced up, treatment, him going through everything. I mean, Andrew took a lot of massive hits. Obviously, it made him retire early, but that reaction from the Colts fans was one that so many people went after Colts fans for, and it's like, for the second time in 3 years, they thought they had a guy who was the guy in Andrew Luck. He's gone now forever. And by the way, people talk still to this day. Andrew has not been seen from, by the way. He retires. He says, hey, there's a decision I'm making. I don't know if it was a decision he made before the situation popped up that he got back in with injuries. I don't know if he said, if I ever get into this situation again, I'm retiring. And that's why he's such at ease with it, because retiring is not an easy thing. Or if that literally was, he woke up and was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to retire. So I would assume it was calculated because Andrew Luck's a super smart guy. But he's a guy who was retired and just literally rode off into the sunset. I've heard nothing from him. Obviously, he and I weren't like best friends. I accidentally tweeted a lot of his thigh and thing out like that, and we weren't very similar humans. I think we had a lot of respect for each other, obviously. I have not talked to him. I think Hasselbeck has talked to him, and I'm always like, Hasselbeck, like, is he all right? They're like, yeah, loving his life, having a great time. It's like, well, good for him then. I'm incredibly happy for him. But 1 year ago today, the NFL was rattled by one Adam Schefter tweet in the fourth quarter of a preseason game.
And I don't know if it's because we live here or you're a future Ring of Honor member for the Colts.
I don't know if that's, there's a lot of names that need to go up there before me.
But that's I believe it's a big enough story where it's a where were you when you heard about it situation.
Well, I was there.
I had a couple, you were at because they were playing the Bears.
It was a great night.
I will tell you, too, the boos did not do it justice in the actual stadium. It was a lot louder. It was crazy.
Well, I believe the video, now, I don't want to say that any media would do what the WWE has done for a long time and heighten some pain, but it sure sounded like that video of the boo. I mean, as that video was released, like through the week as people were playing it, it was like that boo got louder and louder and louder.
Added their own tracks.
It was like, listen to the background here as Andrew Luck, a man who's had surgeries on blah, 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 and his battle for the Colts fans, gets booed off his last walk of the field. And they go real quiet and it's like, it was a wild scene, wild scene. And I got a couple texts from some local writers that wanted me to do the where were you thing, and I didn't want to buy into it. I was like, I don't want Andrew to get mad. Yeah. Because I don't want Andrew to get mad because, by the way, I retired young. Now, granted, I knew I was doing it about 3/4 of the way through the season, so as soon as the season ended, I knew that I was going to be gone. But I think if somebody comes to the decision that they don't want to play anymore, it's like, you probably shouldn't. Like, that's one of those things where if you think you shouldn't be playing, you probably shouldn't be playing. And now the timing was terrible. I think even Andrew, I would assume now would tell you that he wishes that it wasn't the timing it was because he didn't help his team and set up, that's not a good time to lose your starting quarterback. But for Andrew Luck, it's like, hey, that's a situation that came up and get up. I'm happy for him. I'm very happy for him. But boy, it was quite a turn of events very quickly for old Chris Ballard too. Chris Ballard had to be like, now listen, I'm happy for you. Okay, I am happy for you. This is your We gotta. Oh man, we gotta. All right, let's bring in horror then. I guess we'll bring in horror.
Bring him back.
I mean, granted, our entire offseason was shaped around Andrew Luck being our starting quarterback, and now here we are. What, 2 weeks before the regular season starts? But hey, I'm happy for it because Chris is such a good gentleman. And by the way, if you've ever been in there, when a guy decides to retire, like that's a cool thing. Like it's like congratulate. It's almost like a congratulations. Now you never think it's forever. You never think anybody's retirement is forever. You're always like, maybe he'll come back, or whatever. I said, though, with Andrew, I said, I feel like this is going to be forever. Like, I feel like he's retiring and this one's going to be forever because of how it happened. Like, if he was to come back, and Andrew is a good dude, nice guy, happy guy. I think everybody knows that. I think because of how it went down, 14 days before the season or whatever, I don't think Andrew will ever come back because he wouldn't want to make people feel terrible. Now, a lot of people think he's going to come back because he still has, another 20 years of football if he really wants it, especially if he goes away for a couple of years like Gronk has, and everybody said, well, he found his love for the game again. His back feels good. Like it was like a good refresher course. Maybe he'll come back. But it's just the way it went down. I'm not 100% sure he'll ever, I think he's just too nice of a guy. I think he would feel terrible. I guess he still lives in Indianapolis too. He probably has houses other places, has a kid. I mean, he's living his best life. But you're right. Here in Indianapolis, it was a big, where were you when it happened? And I got asked by a lot of people, like, hey, you remember where you were when you retired or whatever? And I was like, I don't. I mean, I have a lot of things happen in my life. I apologize. But I do remember the internet. I was on the internet whenever that happened. What was he?
Do you think the game of football will ever see Andrew Luck again? Like coaching wise, was he like a person that would help like people under him?
No, I don't. Well, you would.
Or like coaching wise.
Geez, the way you just phrased that question was.
Well, those buildings, right?
No, yeah, but Andrew was a guy that was nice to everybody. So like he was nice to everybody, too nice. I thought he was too nice, to be honest with you. And I think Vinatieri and I had that conversation a lot because we go from Peyton, who's a very nice guy. Like, let's not get crazy, but when it came to like football and executing, all those greats have that little bit of like accountability expectation from people that can come off as a little bit hard. I would assume Tom Brady's like that. I'm not 100% sure, but anybody that's at that top, there's an accountability that they expect from people that they're not scared to say like, hey, you got to tighten up, or we need this from you. I don't know if Andrew ever had that. Now, I wasn't in private conversations that he had with people, but I always wanted him to be like more of a hole of the ass. Like I was always like, oh, we need you to be a little bit mean. I never said it to him because it's not my job to go up to Andrew Luck, first pick of the draft, and be like, hey, I think you need to be meaner.
Toughen up.
Like, that's not for me. But he was like too nice of a guy, I thought. And by the way, doing that, I think it got him killed a lot. Like I think instead of like, I think somebody else seeing that should have went to an offensive lineman and said like, hey, you see that guy back there? Like if you don't block anybody, that guy doesn't get to do his thing. Now, granted, he might hold on to the ball too long. There's a lot of things to talk about whenever sacks happen and all that stuff. But if we can keep that guy alive, we're all going to get much happier in our lives, I think. And that was something that you would see a lot of other guys do, like, hey, I need you to do this, need you to do this. And Andrew was such a nice guy, and he might have done it in a different fashion. Like, he might have done it a little privately, so I didn't see it. But, man, what a player. I think the game will miss him for sure. I'm not 100% sure he'll ever come back.
Was he so nice to the point where, like, the locker room was happy for him, or were they like...
Oh, yeah. Like, anything Andrew did, it was like watching, like your little brother almost. I was like, oh, good for him. Like, oh, I'm happy for him. Like, whenever he would come back, like, there was very rare moments where he would, like, really show real emotion, too. He was always, like, the consummate professional, but then whenever he got all jacked up, it was like, okay, hey, let's go, Andrew. He was born for the NFL. He was being compared to John Elway, like his 8th grade or something like that. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, by the way, to put on a guy. And he lived up to it. Now, granted, he retired for whatever reason. I don't think anybody's known, right? I don't think it's ever come out, like the exact reason why he
Didn't
retired.
he just say he kind of fell out of love with football because he...
Rehab.
Yeah, it was rehabbing so much he didn't get to do the stuff that like made him love the game pretty much.
He didn't want to get back into the cycle of wake up, rehab, blah, 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 which, by the way, rehab is... It doesn't get talked about enough. You always hear about people coming back from surgery and everything like that. Rehab is not fun. Like it is, you have to have athletic trainers and physical therapists that are like kind of funny, by the way. And the reason why that is a massive like trait that I think I would assume physical therapists and athletic trainers talk about having to have is because the humans that you're working on are just, they are going through. You have to reteach your leg how to walk again after just a simple knee surgery. You got to re-bring your muscle. And then there's scraping of scar tissue. It is just a nightmare. And I think that was the reason that was initially given. And like for instance, for me, I was going to stare down another knee surgery and another rehab. I hated it. That was obviously a massive part of it. I'm like, yo, I'm getting surgeries after every single season here because, and a lot of people wondered why I could wrestle, but I couldn't punt a ball. Every time I punted, my knee would hyperextend, you see, because the quad was too strong for said joint of the knee. Since I've been kicking balls for so long, the knee kind of got to the point where it couldn't keep up with my leg speed. So every time I would punt, my knee would hyperextend, okay? So that's why you could see me shoot basketball, I can run, I can do all that. But the act of punting was something that really aggravated my knee because I would hyperextend because you're trying to get leg lock every single time you hit a ball. That's like basically like you want leg lock for the maximum power. So staring down another rehab, staring down another surgery, knowing that there'd probably be more on the horizon was definitely a massive factor in my retirement. But then there's all these other outlier things where you like just start like kind of piecing in like, well, I don't like coming to work for said guy anymore. Add that in there. Oh, I have my best game and we lose. Am I allowed to be happy? No, I'm not allowed to be. Well, let's add that in there. Oh man, I'm making a lot of money off the field doing things I really enjoy. I'm having a lot of fun. Do I still want to? You add that in there. So I would want to know what all those are for Andrew. You know, like I would want to know what all those things, like what were some things that could have changed aside from just the rehab that he would have been like, yeah, I'll stick around. I don't know. That's a conversation for him to have one day with somebody who I'll be excited to listen to it, to be honest.
Do you think part of it was that he felt like he wouldn't be able to do the same things he did previously, like with his shoulder and everything? He's like, I'm not going to be the same player that I was a couple years ago.
I don't know. I don't know. These are things that I would like. Hey, these are things that I would, as somebody that got to watch him work, you know, and play and dominate games that he shouldn't, and take a team that wasn't as good as it was to places that it should have went. I would like to know why he, like, just as a fan of football and his teammate, like, I retired but I couldn't determine the outcome of games. Like, and I didn't get $100 and some million. I would like to know why you. I think we all will. And when that conversation happens, people will enjoy the hell out of it.